Is Avid Hutchinson really back to full strength, or is Detroit's defense still riding on borrowed time? The Lions kick off a season that once again claws at the edges of hope and heartbreak, with Green Bay lurking across the NFC North. Last year's playoff surge felt like a promise, something to build on after decades of near misses and what-ifs. From Barry Sanders leaving without a ring to Calvin Johnson's sudden retirement, Detroit fans know better than to take anything for granted. But the question burning hotter than a Midwestern summer, can this defense, led by a healthy Hutchinson, finally slam the door shut on the Packers and Vikings? Or will injuries and roster gaps tear the Lions' resolve apart again? Just when the division crown feels within reach, the Lions have a habit of peaking early and sputtering late. If the front office and coaching staff hesitate, the Pack and Mini will pounce, both boasting aggressive pass rushers and shifty secondaries. That can eat the Lions' offense alive if this defense isn't razor sharp. Bears? Let's not even mention them. Detroit's turf battle with Chicago remains a litmus test for grit. Hutchinson's health is the key domino. Without him firing on all cylinders, that front seven starts to feel fragile, thin edge rushers. Key interior injuries, and a young defensive line still finding its teeth. There's no room for a letdown here. In a division where the margin between the playoffs and tanking can come down to a sack or an interception, Hutchinson's status isn't just news, it's the pulse of the season. This is Lions News Fan Report, where we bleed Honolulu blue and silver, where Ford Field roars behind every snap, and where true fans don't flinch, we lean in harder. Hit subscribe, lock in, tailgate in your garage if you have to, because this season demands obsession. Now, the reality check. Aiden Hutchinson is physically healthy, finally shaking off the leg break that stole his 2024 midseason and a Defensive Player of the Year nod waiting in the wings. But here's the catch. While Hutchinson is back and menacing, the depth and durability behind him remain the biggest questions on Detroit's defensive blueprint. His 7.5 sacks in just 5 games before the injury were a thunderclap reminder that this guy could challenge for the NFL sack title in 2025. Combine that with Marcus Davenport's bruising style, who himself has barely played a half season over 2 years, and you get Detroit's thunderous edge rush, long, powerful, and primed to dismantle quarterbacks. Yet Davenport's health is a rolling question mark, meaning Detroit might have to gently groom him, threatening the Lions' ability to blitz and disrupt come playoff time. Inside, rookie Tyleik Williams slides in next to DJ Reader on the defensive line, filling the gap left by Alan McNeil's torn ACL. McNeil, the Lions' best interior pass rusher, won't return until midseason, leaving a crucial hole up front. Reader, battling father time at 31, put together a career-high 3 sacks last year. But Detroit's line is still a patchwork quilt patchworked with questions. Levi Onwuzurike tore his ACL for the year. Josh Paschal is out on the non-football injury list, and backups like Roy Lopez and Pat O'Connor look reliable but lack star power. Mekhi Wingo and Chris Smith bring youth and energy, but no one expects miracles there this season. The front line's fragility could force defensive coordinator Kelvin Shepard to get creative, something the linebackers' versatility supports, but still not enough to mask the thin defensive line. Speaking of linebackers, Jack Campbell's second-year rise into one of the league's top tacklers and a defensive general is Detroit's backbone. His relentless motor and defense-commanding skills earn praise from Coach Dan Campbell himself, highlighting his ability to read plays quickly and never tire, a vital piece in the defensive puzzle. Derek Barnes returns at strong side after a knee injury. Alex Anzalone shoring up weak side confidence despite off-season contract drama. And the depth behind them, Grant Stewart, Trevor Nowoski, Zach Cunningham, offer solid special teams value and injury insurance. But depth suffers again when Malcolm Rodriguez's ACL recovery timeline pushes him back to the second half of the schedule. This linebacker core's the deepest but potentially stretched thin is the engine for Shepard's disguise packages, hoping to keep opponents guessing amid frontline concerns. Secondary? Thin, arguably the Lions' most fragile link. Detroit kept just 8 defensive backs, a razor-thin margin that puts enormous pressure on the starting lineup. Safeties Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph form one of the NFL's best safety tandems, with Joseph fresh off leading the league with 9 interceptions and locking in a massive 4-year extension, making him the highest-paid safety in the NFL. Branch is a big hitter, fixing coverage flaws that held him back, and looks ready for a breakout. On the corners, new signing DJ Reed joins first-round pick Terrion Arnold, whose early career penalty struggles seem to be fading, with both rotating in boundary and field positions to keep offenses off balance. Slot duties fall to Amik Robertson, while Avonte Maddox is a wild card bump from safety to slot corner during camp. But the Lions still need those game-changing takeaways from the cornerbacks, a deficiency that could swing close games the wrong way in this high-stakes NFC North. Grind. Special teams? The Detroit Lions are locked in with punter Jack Fox, kicker Jack Bates, and long snapper Hogan Hatton, the trifecta of reliability and skill keeping the hidden game solid. There was no all-season wiggle room for competition here, a confidence shared by special teams coordinator Dave Phipp, whose faith in these core players recognizes the razor edge where special teams wins and losses can tip tight games. Fox's 51-yard gross punting led the league last year. Bates nailed 26 of 29 field goals, some from distances that would freeze your tailgate beer, and Hatton brings coverage skills beyond just snapping. Kick and punt returns will be a rotating effort, spotlighting players like Grant Stewart and running backs Sean Vaki and Craig Reynolds, with Caleb Raymond handling the punts. Coverage units are stout too, led by Stewart, Vaki, and Dorsey, a truly underrated weapon as one of football's elite gunners. What does all this mean for Detroit's season? The rehabilitation of Aiden Hutchinson is more than a health update. It's the fulcrum on which the Lions' contention tilts. The 2024 defensive blueprint showed promised top-end pass rush potential, an emerging linebacking core, strong safety play, but injuries and depth issues nearly derailed progress. Hutchinson's return means the difference between a defense that can hold its own deep into January and one that folds under playoff pressure like so many Lions units before it. The question is not just about sacks or tackles, but about intangible factors, leadership, intimidation, and the ability to collapse the pocket early and often, especially against divisional rivals like Aaron Rodgers and his Packers or the Vikings' dynamic offense. Detroit's defense can no longer afford to be a revolving door of injuries and inconsistent rotations. Ford Field is ready to roar, but this defense has to hold up when the cameras are brightest the NFC North is watching. Rivals are licking their chops, and the ghosts of Sanders-era what-ifs hover overhead. The front office's moves, from locking in extensions to managing player health, will define whether this team scratches another playoff run or gets dragged back into rebuilding purgatory. Fans remember the 0-16 trauma and the roller coaster playoff run just last year. They know this season's pulse revolves around Hutchinson and a squad desperate to prove it's NFL tough. The clock is ticking for Detroit to flip the script. So, Lions Nation, how do you see Hutchinson's return shaping the team's future? Is this the moment the defense finally matures into the force of nature Detroit desperately needs? Or are the thin edges of this roster a reminder that this division and this franchise still lies on the razor's edge between glory and heartbreak? Drop your take, make some noise, and prepare for a season where every snap feels like a lightning strike. Because in this city, every down is do or die, and every fan's a soldier ready to storm the trenches. As the clock ticks down toward the opening kickoff, every move, every rotation, every gamble becomes a potential fork in the road. Will the Lions roll the dice now, sacrificing depth for a chance at glory, or play it safe and risk losing that precious edge? Because if Detroit's front office gambles right, this could be the birth of a dynasty. But one slip up, and we're staring at yet another chapter of heartbreak, another Detroit story left unfinished, waiting to be rewritten under the bright Lights of Ford Field. The question remains, how much longer can the Lions afford to dance on this razor's edge before it tears everything apart? Look, I'm telling you, if Hutchinson is healthy and swings the season in our favor, Detroit finally gets that breakout playoff run we've been chasing since Sanders wore Honolulu blue. But if that injury bug comes back or the depth implodes, forget it. We've seen this movie before. It's always a close call. I'm sick of living on hope, but damn, every ounce of me still believes this is the year Detroit finally flips the script. If they just roll the dice one more time, this is Detroit. That roar in Ford Field, that grit in our bones, it's not just a game, it's our blood. One pride isn't just a motto, it's a battle cry. So gear up, make your stand, and never flinch, because when the pride storms the trenches, we don't settle for second best. We're ready to fight for every inch, every yard, every damn snap, because in Detroit, we don't back down.